Greetings. Here we go. It's week three. Week three of Preventive and Therapeutic. And so I want to start out this week. So McGraw Hill had some difficulties, some technical difficulties, and some of you were not able to take the exams. Some of you haven't purchased your content or access, and so you ran into some of those problems as well. However, so just the kind of guy I am, I'm going to give you until, next Sunday, which is September 6th, 2020 at 11:59 to complete week one, week two, and week three, because yes, you do have a quiz this week as well. Um, and so, with that being said, let's get into week three. So for those of you who have, before I get there, to answer some questions, some of you have been concerned about. Okay, yeah, I took the test on McGraw Hill. I have a grade, and then the grade book says 0. That's due to the fact that I didn't establish a late policy in McGraw Hill. So usually the first couple of weeks here at the college are typically tumultuous with regard to people coming into the course late, people being purged from the class, and various reasons. So providing a little bit of flexibility um, with regard to how that is done. So, and when I say how that is done, I'm talking about, quiz grades. So after Labor Day, if you take a quiz late, then then you will be deducted. There'll be some points deducted from your quiz, and this will be stated in the quiz policy when you get ready to take it on McGraw Hill. But up until now, so quizzes 1, 2, and one that you'll be assigned this week, quiz 3, will have a degree of flexibility. So you guys will be able to, if you've taken it and you like your grade, then great. If you haven't taken it and you need to take it, or else you're going to have a 0, it's going to remain. But you have until next Sunday to take the quiz. So, with all of that being said, let's talk about Chapter 3. So, legal liability and insurance. So, the first few weeks we've talked about, okay, who's responsible for this, who's responsible for that. And this class, preventive and therapeutic aspects of sports-related injuries, is dealing with talking about athletic training. So, we're talking about athletic trainers here mostly. With regard to what are their legal responsibilities, in the athletic training room, and in this scope. So, legal concerns typically have to deal with negligence. So, negligence suits usually involve the institution, the coaches, the physicians, and etc. And so anyone providing any level of health care to an injured athlete must know their limitations to avoid overstepping boundaries, and must be aware of the practice acts for various healthcare groups. So I practice as an athletic trainer here in the state of Georgia. And so here in the state of Georgia, my practice act says that I can deliver athletic health care to injured athletes, and that I can use certain modalities. Those modalities being light therapy, ultrasound, electrical stim, etc. And it's very, very broad and open, and allows me to do some additional things like joint mobilizations, like dry needling, like cupping, and those types of things that in some states athletic trainers are not allowed to provide those services. So if an athletic trainer does provide those services, and an athlete subsequently has some type of reaction, or something that's not beneficial to their athletic performance and health, then they can sue, and they will likely win. because that athletic trainer was not authorized via the Practice Act to provide those particular services. So the first thing, you have negligence, then you have liability. And so liability means being legally responsible for the harm one causes another person. So you must be certain of all the rules and regulations relative to healthcare in your particular state. So, standard of reasonable care. Negligence, the failure to use ordinary or reasonable care. So, standards of reasonable care assumes that a person is of ordinary and reasonable prudence, and it brings a common sense approach to the situation. And so you must operate within the appropriate limitations of one's educational background. So let's make this real for us right now. So think about all of the school districts that are saying, "Hey, it's okay for our kids to go back to school." Um, you know, they have, in a sense, exercised a an action that, from an educational standpoint, they may not be able to make that decision. So of course they have advisors, and hopefully they have advisors from the medical profession, from the public health arena, that have advised them in this situation. And so, but it seems like in most cases, up to this point, they have not been properly advised, and they are making these decisions for children to go back to school, and COVID-19 cases are increasing, and so that's not reasonable care. So you're putting everybody at risk, including the frontline healthcare workers that may be at those schools. Typically the athletic trainers and coaches. So coaches like to coach. So you tell them that they can coach, then that's what they're going to do, and because they like the coach and they like their sports, and then of course athletic trainers are caught in the middle of it in most cases because of improper advisement with regard to the situation. Now, I'm speaking specifically about COVID-19, and so again, along the lines of the standards of reasonable care, establishing negligence. So a duty of care existed, between the person injured and the person responsible for that injury. So if you're an athlete, then and I am your athletic trainer, then yes, there's going to be a duty of me to care for you. And so if there's some negligence, that means that my conduct, or the athletic trainer's conduct, or medical professional's conduct fell short of that duty of care. And so, meaning that the defendant caused the injury to occur. And so the resultant damages, either personal, property, or punitive, lie in that arena. So torts are legal wrongs committed against a person, and liability results. And so they may emanate or come from nonfeasance, failure to perform their legal duty, failure to refer, a malfeasance, which is performs an action that is not his or hers legally to perform. So you performed an advanced treatment that led to complications, or a misfeasance, to improperly perform something that the person has a legal right to do. So nonfeasance, failure to perform legal duty. So if there's an emergency situation, then in an athletic arena, and I am the athletic trainer there, then I am legally responsible to provide immediate care. So immediate care might be ice, it may be a reduction, it may be activating EMS, it may be CPR, first aid, whatever the case may be. And if I fail to do that, then that would be a non-feasance. A malfeasance is what we talked about earlier. So performing an action that is not legally, mine to perform in that particular situation. So let's say, um, you know, someone, in most cases, while athletic trainers are trained to do stitches, in some states they are not legally, they can't legally do stitches. So let's say I'm at a football game, someone comes out, they need stitches, and I give them stitches, and then they decide to um, sue me because I gave them stitches. So I determined, I made a medical decision and gave them stitches, and then they like, oh, I don't like the stitches. Let's just say it's to the face. So I stitch it up. I stop the bleeding. Hey, I'm a hero. No, not quite, because I wanted cosmetic stitches that would allow me to continue to maintain, my appearance after the stitches are removed. And so those are concerns that a patient may have. And so in this particular sense, that would be a malfeasance. And then finally, a misfeasance would be to improperly perform something that the person has a legal right to do. So I'm going to use, in this particular example, a shoulder dislocation. So let's say we have a shoulder dislocation. Typically when there's a shoulder dislocation, then there is a loss of pulse associated with that. So distal pulse. So you'll continue to learn. This is proximal. This would be distal. So if my shoulder is dislocated, then there's typically what happens. Sometimes there's a compression of the artery, meaning that I have no pulse here. So you go to take the pulse, there's no pulse. This is a medical emergency. It needs to be reduced quickly. If not, the patient could lose the arm. So, hey, I'm an athletic trainer. I've been trained to do, I have training and education in reduction of dislocation, shoulder dislocation specifically. But this particular time I perform it improperly, and the patient now has, while their arm is back in place, they have a severed artery, and cause some additional damages. And so, that would be a misfeasance. And so we could argue that a little bit more. But as you go through the chapter, you'll talk about, negligence, statutes of limitations, assumptions of risk, and product liability. Product liability, you tend to talk about helmets, like football helmets. And so if these helmets are modified in any way, then you violate, you void the warranty on those particular helmets. So the modifications that a football player may make may void the warranty for the helmet. So you can't come back and say, oh, I did this to my helmet and I got a concussion. Well, you modified the helmet. The helmet was certified for this level of contact. And then you did this to it. So you added something or took something out and messed up the structural integrity, of that piece of equipment, or it wasn't properly certified, etc. Just a number of things that you guys will cover this week with regard to legal liability and insurance. So, reminder, you will be able to retake each quiz from week 1, week 2, and week 3 up until this coming Sunday, September 6, 2020. So hope all is well, and your grades will be updated next Monday. So for those of you who have, zeros in the grade book, those grades will be updated by next week after everyone has taken or retaken the quiz in McGraw-Hill. So make sure you go out and get your textbooks and everything that you need for this course, because you will not pass this course because you won't have access to the quizzes. So it is very important that you go get this information. All right. Have a great week, and talk to you guys soon.